Welcome to episode 7 of LionHeart Radio. Well, I think it's going to be episode 7. If we fuck this up too bad, it'll end up in the Land of Misfit podcast, where we never release it. I'm your host, Rick Alexander, founder of LionHeart Supplement Company, based in San Diego, California. I'm here with my co-host, Memo.
Hey guys, Memo, co-founder of LionHeart.
And we're here with Claudia as well.
Hey guys, Claudia Challoner, a doctor of physical therapy with Muma RX and nationally ranked powerlifter.
All right, guys, today we're going to give you different tips to getting stronger. This is an episode I'm super excited about. I've pretty much spent the last decade of my life trying to get stronger. And it's actually really good timing because Claudia is getting ready for a meet on Saturday.
Woohoo!
So when this episode airs, would it have already passed?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So it's the Juggernaut Summer Showdown. It's a USA PL meet up in Laguna McGill?
Nigel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Up in Orange County.
And you're going for a triple bodyweight deadlift at this?
Yes. If I vomit or crap myself on the platform, it's happening. I'm pulling triple bodyweight deadlift.
Yeah.
Are you going to take a pull out of a bottle of whiskey before you attempt it?
See, I haven't checked into that, so I need to look into that
you need to
before.
Test that quick. You have 4 days to test it out. So what made you transition, because you were a CrossFitter, we've talked about this on other episodes, but
yeah,
what made you transition to purely strength and powerlifting in general?
Well, I had been doing CrossFit for probably 9 years on and off, and I was always better at the strength parts. Like, that was just where I was naturally, I've always been just naturally strong.
Yep.
And so that's where I excelled most at. I was not the person that had the engine. I would die on those workouts. But yeah, so I transitioned over into just powerlifting about a year ago, and I'm just loving it. It was a refreshing change for me because I think I was kind of getting burnt out with CrossFit, but it's also a little bit easier for me because that's what I'm naturally best at. So of course I'm going to like it more.
Right.
But it also requires me to push myself too. So
Sure.
yeah.
I'm excited. Well, for me, it's the exact opposite of that. So I started out with triathlon. I weighed 156 pounds. And I just did nothing but run triathlons and running races. Half marathons was like my distance. A half Ironman was my distance. But then once I started getting into CrossFit for the first time, I really liked the lifting portion, the strength portion, but I wasn't that good at it. Which then that made me stray into strongman. So then I spent a few years just doing strongman and trying everything under the sun to get stronger. And then I kind of came back to CrossFit. And then what's funny is once I came back to CrossFit, strength was my strength.
Yeah.
So strength was my best part. It's every time a heavy workout came up, I was just like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of been full spectrum for me. But one of the things that I think people really need to pay attention to when it comes to who they're paying attention to about getting stronger, it's you really need to check your sources because we were talking about before the show, there's a lot of people that have really good genetics and then they just wind a bunch of juice to them. And then, they're going to be training people and you're going to look at that person. And even me, when I'm picking a trainer, I'm going to look at the person it's natural, right?
Yeah.
But you really need to vet your resources. How strong is that person that's trying to make you stronger, Mm-hmm. For me personally, one of my early CrossFit coaches couldn't do a muscle up. And I would always be thinking how are you going to coach me in muscle ups if you can't do it? You don't know what it's like.
Right.
And there's a certain give and take to that because there's a lot of people that are really great coaches that can't put 300 pounds over their head right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just because you have those numbers definitely doesn't mean that you're a good coach.
Right.
Or you know how to coach.
Right.
So you need to have both, I think.
It's important that you check your sources when it comes to paying attention to what you're paying attention to because there are some crazy ass programs out there.
Yeah. And super complicated. And especially for, I think if you're a newbie looking at maybe starting a strength program, I think going for the most basic is where you should start. If you're going for this super elaborate program with all these different things in it, just go for your basic push-pull, combo movements,
Well, that's the best part about
good to go.
Just getting
develop that and then look into maybe some of those more intricate programs to advance where you want to go.
Yeah, as a beginner getting into just a simple strength program, that's the most gains you're going to get. That first 6 months, to a year or two, man, you just make huge gains. And it's fun, you see it right away. And then once you adapt, when your body adapts to the weight more, you get your strength up, then it slows down, obviously.
Yeah. And then you can start playing around with some other things at that point.
When I first started, and I tell a lot of the people that I know, just do basic 5x5 strength program,
Yeah, I think Jim Windler's 531 is a really
I like that one a lot.
Great program to start with. It's super simple. It's easy to pay attention to. It moves in a linear progression, which is, I think, king when it comes to getting stronger. No matter what you do for a plan, I think you have to be moving in a linear progression. You have to be trying to get stronger. A kid actually came up to me yesterday and he was asking me about getting stronger and getting bigger. So I was like, well, what do you do when you go into the gym? And as he's talking to me, he's telling me, well, I go in and I do like 4 sets of 10 curls. And I'm like, okay, what weight do you do? He's like, I do 45. And I'm like, okay, how long have you been doing that weight for? And he's like, oh, the last like 8 months. And I'm like, well, you're not getting stronger. You're not moving toward anything. You're just going in and you're pushing weight around just for the sake of pushing weight.
Yeah.
So having a linear progression is super important no matter what your plan is. But I completely agree to start simple because there's a million Instagram models out there now and that kind of a thing that will, they all have their plan up. And it's like these ridiculous plans that a lot of them, they utilize a lot of machines and, it's kind of like a butchered version of like one of the better plans. But at the end of the day, the principles that are going to help you get stronger, they haven't changed.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
So I completely agree.
Yeah. And I think also too, you got to keep in mind that, if you are starting a strength program, if you're going for those compound lifts, like you're going to make definitely some big gains in the beginning because you're improving your skill in those movements. So just going back to athletic development, if you do squats, you're likely going to get better at squats. Like, if you have correct position and all that stuff.
Right.
So just the more that you do something, you're going to make some development with that. And then develop strength on top of that as well. So.
That's like swimming. If you have a really good swim coach and you swim for 6 weeks, your fitness is marginally better, but your form is so much markedly better that now you're much faster.
Yeah.
Same idea.
Yeah, same thing.
And then with powerlifting, it's a much more simple lift, but when it comes to like Olympic weightlifting, that's like everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you can move up tons and tons of weight because form is so important.
Oh, totally.
Olympic weightlifting is like powerlifting combined with golf. That's how I think of it.
Yeah, maybe that's why I tend to like powerlifting more.
Yeah.
I don't have the patience for it.
Yeah, when I got into Olympic weightlifting, it's like you're constantly thinking like knees, hips, bar drag, where's the bar going to leave?
And then if
what
it's
are my
just
shoulders
half
doing?
a second off,
That's
you missed it.
Yep. So, and then I think that's important as well, just sticking to compound lifts when you're just trying to get stronger.
Yeah. There's no reason to complicate things.
No. I think the big 4 are king. They say that, powerlifting's the 3, the bench, deadlift, and squat. But I think, for me, I throw in the overhead press. I think that's
I think,
functional.
and with my accessory work, I do some overhead press too. I tend to veer a little bit more towards like upper body push-pull. So bench or pull up, as examples. And then you also have your hip hinge. So think of a deadlift or whatever variation you want with that. Squat. And then a unilateral leg movement. So whether it's a single leg deadlift, a lateral step, something like that. And then also a loaded carry. So yoke, farmer's carry, something like that.
Really functional.
Yeah. So I tend to kind of like that concept of those pieces because you're not really missing much out. Like it's encompassing everything. So,
and if you're not a strength athlete, that's definitely what I think you should focus on. So I've seen a lot of runners. I think the tide is kind of changing where runners are realizing how beneficial it is to be strong and to work on your strength. I mean, even with me with that long run that I did, I had no joint problems. Like part of that is form, and I think a lot of that is the fact that my joints are really strong from 10 years of squatting like twice, 2-3 times a week.
Yeah. That's why if a runner comes to see me and they have knee pain or hip pain or, foot issues and they're not on some type of strength program, I definitely try to get them in that in that direction.
Yeah.
They need that.
Bone density, tissue strength.
Yeah, it's so
the whole
important.
thing.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times you see runners in the gym, but they'll be doing like the leg extension machine. And I'm like, why are you isolating? Why are you doing an isolating movement right now when the nature of what you do is a compound movement? Running is a very compound movement.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think if you're somebody that's not a strength athlete, if you're a runner, even a hiker, whatever you do, if you're active at all, sticking to the big 3 or big 4 is definitely going to be very beneficial for you. And then when it comes to getting stronger, personally, I think there's no replacement for time under tension. So CrossFit talks about, I think it's like what do they call it? Like the box, like you put CrossFit in and then out comes all of these other things. So they say like, that was like one of the original messages they had. So if you just stuck to the daily WOD, the workout every single day, your deadlift would go up. And I think that's true to some extent, but a lot of that is because they're dealing with largely untrained populations.
Yeah.
So they're getting really active, they're learning movement patterns, and then of course they're going to be really good when it comes to other movements. Like that's just the nature of what they were doing.
Yeah.
But I think if you're really trying to get stronger, you need time under tension at a high percentage of your 1 rep max, and the more you're able to do that, the better off you're going to be. So that might mean you have to reduce the rep count and obviously the time between workouts. But when it comes to getting stronger, at least I found like you stick 80% and higher, the more that you can stick in that range of your 1 rep max, the better off you'll be. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would agree. Like, I mean, I made the transition into powerlifting about a year ago, but when I transitioned over, I was still doing some CrossFit. And then I realized that my body was not going to sustain this because it was way too much of my body. And I know there's going to be a lot of people out there that disagree. But just for my body, it was going to be best for me just to focus on the strength portion, especially if I wanted to really focus on competing in powerlifting. And so now I lift 4 days a week. I have a max of like 4 different movements that day, and that's it. But if I tried to do a CrossFit workout right now, well, first off, I'd probably vomit because my cardiovascular conditioning is not great right now. But also, too, it's gonna tank my body while it's trying to recover and build more muscle mass in order to get stronger. And so it's just, they're 2 different goals for me right now. So I think that's important for people to kind of understand and make sure that you have your goals in mind and stay true to that.
And do you mess with accessory lifts at all?
Yeah, so I do accessory lifts. I'll of course, squat, bench, deadlift throughout the week. But then I do overhead press. I do, step ups or lunges, kind of hitting that unilateral work. And then I'll also do this time programming was bicep curls, which was fantastic.
It's always a good day.
Oh yeah.
Every time that pops up in my programming, I'm like, fuck yeah.
and then like some tempo kind of work with a few things. Yes. And then I've also had like front squats and stuff in my programming to accessorize.
So right now my goal is I want to hit a 500-pound back squat and I want to be able to run 100 miles in under 24 hours. So I'm debating whether I should put accessory work into my lifts or not. Especially right now, so I'm in a base building phase of my training where I'm like really, it's just about logging miles per week. Just like getting stronger in a linear progression. I'm just trying to add more miles every week. And so when I get into the gym, I'm like, do I want to waste energy on accessory lifts? What do you think about that?
Well, that's going to be totally different for you because you have a different goal in mind.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking for the non-strength athletes right now, like the runners, like kind of where my goals are at.
I mean, I think it's going to be, dependent on that person too, but if you can at least just get in a non-strength athlete, if you can at least get in just a few compound movements, I think that's going to be great for you. But I also think it's really important for runners to work on unilateral work, working on lunges, working on step ups.
Right.
Single leg squats, RDLs or remaining deadlifts, single leg deadlifts, whatever it might be. I think that's really important because I see a lot of runners that have huge imbalances side to side, and that really comes out, especially if they're trying to run for a long period of time.
Okay.
So working on some more unilateral work, I think, is a good accessory piece if you are going to work on an accessory movement.
Oh, okay. I just started ending every run with like 1 to 200 meters of walking lunges.
Oh, great.
So
yeah,
it's killing me right now. But I'm assuming it's going to pay.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important.
Just to be a strong runner, you know.
For sure.
And then diet's something when it comes to getting stronger that's super important as well. So like I always say, like you need to eat in a way that lends itself to getting stronger. If you eat like a rabbit, it's super hard to move weight like an ox. Right? There's exceptions. I mean, because you're vegan, which
I'm not a vegan. No.
Or you're
I'm a
vegetarian.
pescatarian, technically.
Okay.
Yeah. But I still eat a lot of food.
Right. Well, and you're getting the fish, so you're getting the fatty acids. You're getting a lot of lean protein.
Yeah. I eat a lot. And I think that's what people don't understand is the amount. When you're trying to build strength, you need to definitely give your body the calories and the correct macros that it needs in order to build that muscle.
Right.
Otherwise, you're not going to build.
And then timing. Timing is super important too.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they finish the workout and they grab the protein shake, which I think is better than nothing, of course. But something that we always talk about at Louis Vive is like people always ask us why we don't make a protein. One of those reasons is most proteins are the same. We're going to make whatever's already out there, and I just don't really have a lot of interest in doing that. But then the other thing is like a philosophy belief is like I really believe that your protein should come from whole real food. So like even if you have hard-boiled eggs or chicken or something like that, I think eating that post-workout is much more beneficial than the protein powder, just because of absorption rates, like what your body's actually able to utilize. You're going to be able to utilize the food a lot more. Yeah. And if you're supplementing with something like branched chain aminos or something like that, it's always good to take those in and then take the whole real food. So that's something I would definitely always recommend.
Weren't you saying on a previous episode something about like carbohydrate intake like afterwards that helps the protein absorption?
Yeah,
I can't remember what you said.
It's not carbohydrate; it's insulin.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
So insulin are just going to allow your cells to be able to receive that protein better. Okay. So like one thing, if just for a very basic post-workout snack, if you were going to do like an apple juice and then a chocolate milk. Yeah. So the apple juice would obviously provide that insulin spike, and then that chocolate milk with the protein and the carbs, your body would be able to utilize it a lot better. Okay. But I definitely think no matter what you do, taking advantage of that anabolic window, extremely important. Like that's your body's going to utilize the food in that 30 to 40 minute window the best. And I've seen a lot of different papers that have come out that say if you wait to like an hour, it's almost detrimental. Like obviously you should eat, but your body has already utilized what it can utilize post-workout. So you're going to, it's going to be like your body's going to eat its own muscle and fat. And then you're going to eat, your body's going to convert that to fat, depending on what you eat. So that's something to think about. Yeah. And then timing before is super important too. Like if you're a carb-adapted athlete, meaning you eat carbs throughout your normal day and you're not in the state of ketogenesis, then it's important that you have glycogen in there for to utilize during a workout, because your body's gonna, if you're a carb adapted athlete, your body's gonna use those carbs for energy. So if you don't eat something with a decent glycemic index, then your body's gonna have nothing to go, and it's gonna use its own stores of glycogen first, but then it's gonna be out. So if you're like a CrossFitter and you're doing like a long Metcon, then you'll definitely run out of glycogen if you don't eat anything before. Yeah. If you're a power lifter, depending on how long, so if you get up in the morning and you just drink coffee and then you lift, depending on how efficiently your body works, like you might be able to pull that off. But at the same time, like I think preloading with something with a little bit of a glycemic index is going to help. Yeah. Just feed that fast twitch, that ATP. So that's my 2 seconds about eating when it comes to getting stronger. And then another thing I think about, we already talked about this a little bit, but what do you think about utilizing machines versus the barbell? I think when it comes to getting stronger, barbell's king.
I agree.
Yeah.
Machines do have their place, especially for certain people if they're worried more about aesthetics rather than just...
But when it comes to getting stronger...
Yeah, getting stronger, I would say compounds, like freestanding.
Yeah.
movements.
Are any of your accessory lifts, are they with a machine?
No.
I haven't even worked out
I can't know.
in a long time.
Now, when I was doing some conjugate training back when I first started powerlifting, we did do like some accessory works that were with like bands. So it's kind of like quad extensions or hamstring curls, but not on a machine, but with the band. So it's kind of mimicking what you would do on a machine, but not quite. So
In conjugate method, that's the West Side method.
yeah.
Is that the exact same thing? I've never known why it was called conjugate.
I'm pretty sure it's the same.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't quote me on that though, but I'm pretty sure it's the same.
Oh, we're just live.
But yeah, so that they utilize a lot of, I mean, they have the whole, concept of their training, but they utilize a lot of like chains and bands, different ranges of motion, training a lot of different variations of a lift to increase that lift.
Okay.
So like squat, you would do like box squats or front squats or banded squats or chained squats, those kind of things.
And they really produce the strongest athletes in the world. So
they have some amazing athletes. Yeah. I think for me, and there's also debate on, raw versus geared lifters of what it suits who best.
And a lot of their programming is geared towards the gear lift.
Yeah.
Right.
As a lot of their lifters are geared, but there's plenty of people that do it that are raw lifters too.
Okay.
But for me, and maybe it was because I was a beginner at powerlifting. I'd done the lifts in CrossFit, but they were relatively newer to me. I didn't get the progress that I wanted. And so when I switched over to doing the program that I am doing now through the Strength Athlete by Bryce Lewis, I really developed a lot more. And that could have been because it allowed me more time to work on my skill for just squat, bench, deadlift, which I didn't necessarily get that much of with conjugate because you're doing a lot of different variations of the movement. So, it could have been a mixture of things. Like I could get totally different outcome if maybe I went to conjugate now that I'm more comfortable with things. But I'm really enjoying the program that I'm on now. I'm making gains with it, so I don't really feel a need to change it. Right. I enjoy it, so.
How often do you retest? Maximal strength.
Meet day. Yeah. So, okay. So like, because this year is kind of planned out, I've had like 12-week cycles basically to work up to meet day. Mm-hmm. And then within the programming, there's like kind of mini cycles within the programming.
Yeah.
And I don't work up to like pretty much max effort until right before the meet.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So mini cycles is something that I think, even if you're a CrossFitter, it's something that you should be doing within your programming.
Super
And you
important.
see it a lot, like, especially off season, they'll do like mini Oli cycles. But can you kind of explain what you're talking about there?
Well, I think, they do it like based on like percentages and rep schemes and stuff like that. Right. But I think just as far as a motivation standpoint, I think it's important, especially like on these 12-week cycles. It's a long time for me anyway. And it kind of keeps you like motivated to kind of keep that in goal. Like, okay,
because of the change and.
Well, yeah. And not necessarily like my movements aren't necessarily changing for that 12-week. I'm still sticking with the same thing, but it's just a different like block of time to focus on. But there's several programs that do like change movements out of those blocks. So you'll do like three weeks of these certain movements, switch over these 3 weeks. Like conjugate does a lot of that kind of blocking stuff. Yeah.
I think even if you're not a strength athlete, it's super important that you stick to cycles like that, or even whatever you're doing as a program. It's extremely important that you stick to the program for the amount of time, because even a bad program, if it's a linear progression and you execute it well, is going to be way better than the million great programs that you keep jumping from thing to thing every few weeks. I always force myself. 12 weeks for me is a long time too. Like 8 weeks seems to be like where I can stay motivated and stick through. No,
it's tough.
Especially something like the Russian squat program. I don't know if you guys have done that.
Yeah, I've done that.
It's only like 6x2, but it's or it gets up to 6x6, but it's 3 times a week, you're just grinding out squats 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And it's 6 weeks. And I think if it was a fucking second longer, I would not be able to stick with it. But
Yeah, I think the Hatch program, I've done that squat program before, and I just did like the half version of it, and that was plenty long enough.
Yeah. And then retesting at the end of some kind of a phase, whatever you're doing, just to know if what you're doing is even if you're getting traction or if you're just kind of spinning your wheels. I'm a big fan of retesting like every 12-ish weeks.
Yeah, which works out.
Unless I do, a 6-week program, then I kind of want to know where my 1 rep is.
Yeah.
And even if you're not a strength athlete, you should go out and test your compound lifts. Your squat, bench, deadlift, maybe overhead press, just to know where you're at, so that you have a starting point. And then as far as the Olympic lifts are concerned, there's definitely athletes I think could hugely benefit from the Olympic lifts. A lot of times the problem is that the Olympic lifts are so based around technique, like we were saying, that I think it gets hard to facilitate those. Like football, for example. Football, you see these guys with these monster power cleans, but really what they're doing is deadlift, bang it off the hips, reverse curl. You know what I mean? Overhand, like monkey grip. They'll be doing like 345. But just building that explosive power could be really beneficial for, a lot of athletes. Boxers, right? Lacrosse players, football players. But if you're one of those people, I know for me, I read an article about how your power clean can help you in football. And so I went to the YMCA and I loaded on 45s. And I was doing the nastiest reverse curl back bend you've ever seen. So if you're listening to this and you are one of those athletes, even if you're a weekend Warrior flag football player, I absolutely think it's worth your time to learn the lift and learn it correct. And with the how prevalent CrossFit is now, like there are a lot of good coaches out there at this point that can really you'll really step your game up when it comes to the Olympic lifts.
Yeah. And I would say also to going back to the testing, like your lifts right now, even if it's your Olympic lifts, like film it, because even though that, 100 pounds, you might have got it up, but it looked like nasty. And then let's say 6 weeks later, you're on a little program and you did that same weight and you might have still struggled with it a little bit, but it looked a lot cleaner and it was a cleaner lift. That's huge progress. Yeah. So I would encourage you, because I've even been doing that with some of my lifts too, is make sure that you're filming them, because then that gives you good feedback too. Not necessarily the weights change that much, but your technique. So then that means there's going to be more change in those weights later down the line, because now you've perfected that skill. Yeah, that's really good advice, because I learned how to snatch from YouTube videos like over and over when I was on deployment, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm doing it right. And then I videotaped it, and I'm like, that's not what they look like. But when you're new, you don't know what right feels like. Yeah, exactly. I have a lot of my patients that I suggest, like, go and film yourself or watch yourself squat in front of the mirror, because you have no idea what your body's doing right now. Especially you see it a lot with newbies that not really sure where their body is in space, and this is a new movement for them. Yeah. So watching yourself is like a great cue to develop that motor control of the movement. Yeah, for any athlete really to rely solely on proprioception is pretty hard, because unless you're really seasoned to know where you're at. Yeah, and that takes time. It takes a lot of time. Something that I wanted to talk about, we mentioned it earlier, you did a memo, is like, I think anything over sets of 5 when you're trying to get stronger is cardio. I agree. 100% agree. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's fact.
But what about German volume training? You guys familiar with that, GVT? Yeah, I did that.
I still kind of consider that cardio.
It's horrible.
It is horrible.
It's 10 sets of 10. There's a lot of different variations.
You start off at 50% of your 1 rep max the first week, and then go up 5% each week. Yep.
Whoa, that sounds awful.
And then what happens when you hit, when you can't get through the 10 by 10? Do you stay there?
Forgot what I did. I did that like 3-4 years ago.
I coached...
I may not have finished it.
I built a variation of it I called American volume training. And what I did is I had people do 7 by 7, starting at 60%, you went up by 5% each week. But once you hit a point where your form broke, so not where you couldn't do it, but where your form broke, you stuck to that percentage for the next 3 weeks. And then you moved up. But no matter what, at the end of 8 weeks, it stopped.
So how many days a week?
So it would be 4 days a week because I did the big 4.
Okay. Oh, okay. Gotcha. So you did it for... Okay, gotcha.
Yep. And it was 7 by 7. So that's only 49 reps as opposed to 100. I mean, I actually had pretty good results with that program. I've had like a couple guys that have like run it over and over because it's like they're getting a lot of results from it.
Yeah.
The only thing I noticed is like, you know, I mean, it's cardio at that point. So if you're like on the 7 by 7 deadlift day, your posterior chain is wrecked.
Yeah.
So especially when you're at, 75%, which is like where, you stick. And then what would happen is like, if I couldn't do anything else that day, like if I had to run and do that, like it's out.
Yeah.
But I think I found anything over 5, it has its place, but like as far as just getting stronger, I think if you stick to 5 by 5, 7 by 3, that kind of a rep scheme. Yeah. Where are you at when you're like in the bulk of your programming?
Oh, so I'm all over the place. They are like super nerds, and they've done a lot of like research on their program and stuff. So they don't necessarily follow a specific program that's famous out there. But yeah, I'll do a lot of 7 by 3s. The most reps that I would have within a set would be probably 7, and that's very rare. And so it's not very much, but it's usually 4 to 6 is kind of about average when I'm like into my training cycle. And then of course, more recently it's been, sets of 2. Yeah. Sets of 3, if that.
And are those sets, are they typically, is it a tempo or is it typically just do the set or?
Yeah, it's just do the set. So I'll try to, just depending on the weight and the percentage, but I try to do them, just almost treat them like an individual lift. So for example, if I'm working on the deadlift, like I'll actually try to reset with each one.
So you don't bounce the weight at the bottom.
Yeah, because I think also treating it as the actual lift, I think helps you just get that preparedness and how you're going to lift versus like repping it out, because I don't rep out anything. Like I'm not going to do that on the platform. Now if I was crossfitting, that would be something different. I would need to train a little bit like that, but I'm not. So what would be the purpose of that?
Right.
So and back squat, kind of think about the same thing, like taking that breath at the top. You know what's epic? If you really want to wreck a CrossFitter, so they can a lot of CrossFitters can rep up 225 deadlifts all day every day, right? Because you've just beat that thing into submission. There's so many workouts that are like 45 reps of 225 deadlift. Do that same workout but have hand release deadlifts. Oh yeah. So at the bottom they have to release their hand from the bar. Yeah. It is a game changer. Yeah. Yes. 100%. I don't remember what the workout. I did a workout with. Oh, I've never actually seen that. Yeah, it was 21, 15, 9 hand release deadlifts and just like wall balls or something simple. Oh, okay. But that's awesome. Much worse. Yeah. Much worse. Yeah. I see that for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Have you guys messed with eccentric, like really focusing on the eccentric part of a lift? With squats? Meaning like if you're doing a shoulder press, like slowing down when you come back down to your shoulders. Explode up, slowing down, like 4-second count. Right, tempo. I've only done it with squats, really. Maybe a few times with deadlifts, but mostly just squats. Yeah, I've messed around with it with pretty much a lot of the different lifts, but in my current program, I've been doing it for bench as one of my accessory pieces. So 3 down, hold for a second at the chest, and then up. Yep. Because bench is relatively weaker compared to my other lifts, so I think that's why we've been kind of really pounding it in. Yeah, there's a lot of exercise physiology guys that have they're really doing a lot a lot of research in the eccentric load because it causes so much damage. Like if you just go out and you do I know with me, I noticed on shoulder press I did a workout that was it was just a 5x5 of a decent percentage, but I did 4 seconds on the way down, and I was much more wrecked. Yeah, definitely get smoked. Yeah, it's definitely a harder position. Yeah. For your body tissues. with that loading. But it's also, we use it a lot with rehab for working on kind of long-term tendon issues and stuff, working eccentric loading, but in a very controlled type of rehab program, because it is very stressful on that tissue, so it can kind of help with some repair in that way.
Yeah.
So, and getting it stronger.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that brings up a good point too, like being sore after a workout. So a lot of people, especially now, I think it's kind of changing a little bit, but when CrossFit got big, it was definitely a thing. I think being sore is almost a badge of honor, right? There's a whole company, Live Sore, that's, it's like a badge of honor. For me personally, I'm like, God, I friggin' hate getting sore. Like, wrecks my next workout. Have you guys looked into heart rate variability training at all? So HRV is a method a lot of UFC fighters are using it right now. And essentially what that is, and you can go look it up for yourself, but you're paying attention to your heart rate. So when you wake up, when you're in a state of just injury, for lack of a better term. So depending on, a lot of times if you're sore, so if I feel sore, I can push through that most days, especially once I get moving. Yeah. Right? Like if I do a nice long warm up, no matter how sore I am, usually I can still get through my workout. But when you wake up, you'll look at your heart rate, and when it's elevated at a resting, it's essentially, that's like telling you that your body is in a state of repair. So there's a lot of science behind it, and it's much more complicated than I just explained. But HRV is something like I was thinking about today. I really want to get into looking at, just because I'm doing so much volume. And so every day I'm like, well, I got to slog the miles, legs feed the wolf. And
that's interesting.
So I always run. But it's like, HRV, that's something to look into. Wow. Because I think there's a sweet spot with getting sore. Yeah. Right? Because those micro tears are how you grow when it comes to damaging muscle. But at the same time, like, you really have to be careful of, like, where you're at. Do you have a PT perspective?
I think that's important. You want to find that happy balance. And also listening to your body. And a lot of the research out there that they've done on kind of DOMS, so delayed onset muscle soreness, is that active motion is the best way to combat that.
So you believe in the active recovery day?
Yeah.
Or active rest day? Yeah,
and it doesn't necessarily have to even be like rest day, but just like if someone's super sore, like do not skip out on the gym. Like maybe if you have to modify a couple of exercises because, whatever, but still come in here and get moving. Even if it's just body weight stuff, that's going to make you feel a lot better than just not do anything and resting. Right. Like completely like just sitting on the couch or something. Okay. Not going to be the best. So
if you're just an average gym goer and you wake up on Wednesday and you're really sore, you think go to the gym on Thursday anyway and just modify, do what you can do. Or,
are you going to go to the gym Wednesday? Like, were you planning to go to the gym on Wednesday?
Yeah, you go Monday through Friday.
Okay.
In this hypothetical situation.
And you wake up Wednesday and you're super sore. I would say go to the gym on Wednesday and at least like do something. You don't necessarily have to do the same, lifts or the same weights that you were going to do. You don't necessarily have to push through everything, but just go get moving. Even if it's just freaking walk around the block or something, that's going to help you out a lot more than just not doing anything. Right. So you don't have to be like pounding your body again that day, but doing something.
But if you can, so like I was saying with me, I'd have to be really sore to not be able to at least warm up and then do the workout.
Yeah.
I was I tell myself, just go warm up, get on the assault bike, get on the rower.
You're going to feel a lot better.
Yeah, once I get going, I'm like, all right, cool, let's do this. I'm going to work out. And most of the time I just end up doing the regular workout at my gym. Yeah. Just from moving.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, something my coach used to program where after really particularly tough days, the next day would be, it'd be assault bike intervals. And it would just be like 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off for 20 minutes at like 60 or 70%.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything that's going to crush you, but just something to get your body moving is, it's...
To like flush the muscles out, get blood to the area, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Do you ever do anything like that, Claudia, after heavy lifting? Get on a bike or something just to kind of keep moving, cool down.
Now that you've sworn off cardio.
Yeah, you're talking about cardio right now. I don't know.
Very light cardio.
So, I mean, I have a dog, so I do take
okay.
him on long walks and stuff that not necessarily like directly after my workout, but if I am sore that day, it's always nice to go out for a walk. So that's my cardio.
A long time ago, I was reading an article by Jim Jones, the Bobby Maxis and that whole. Have you seen them? Anyway, they're the ones that trained the 300 crew for the 300 movie. So after that came out, I was like, oh, I got to figure out what they're doing. I was 19. But one of the things they said is they don't believe in overtraining. They believe in under recovering, and that's always stuck with me. I like really think that if you're, it's an easier way to look at it. Anyway, it's a better way to look at it. Like if you're really focused on your recovery, then overtraining is not nearly as much of an issue.
Yeah. When I switched over to powerlifting, and nothing against CrossFit because I love CrossFit, but when I switched over, I realized how much recovery I needed for what I was doing. And
why?
Because of just the time under tension that I was experiencing with higher volumes of my strength program, and my body like just did much better with recovery. And so I know if I try to go and do a workout right now, like my body would just not be recovered at all. So I think that's important because when I was CrossFitting, I didn't realize how much I was overtraining, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
And you think just because it was easy to go the next day and get into it, or why do you think
Yeah, just keep doing it, not giving my body time to rest and recover, or just doing something lighter, like not necessarily going like balls to the wall out on every single workout. And that was my problem because I was competitive, and so I just had to go like 100% on every workout. And you can still work out, like have those recovery days, active recovery days, but just tone it down. But I think that's really hard I know it's hard for me.
Yeah,
so.
It's hard for me too. Because I like volume. Like it's something I like to do. And because I'm trying right now to train for a longer time domain, 24 hours is my like time domain goal. So now like on Monday, I try to get a ton of volume in. So I'll do, like on Monday I did a 15-mile run, and then I went and I did a squat workout, and then I went and did Murph after that. But then the plan is Tuesday and Wednesday are dedicated to like barely moving, like getting blood flowing, ice tub, hot tub. And for me, it's more beneficial to do all 3 workouts in one day because I'm training for a long time domain than it is for me to do one of those each day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then you just focus on recovery, and then I do it again. And like I found that cycle to be more beneficial. I'm still trying to get stronger, but I want to like train like I fight, and for me the fight would be, it's like this 100-miler, so I'm trying to
that makes sense.
mimic, the time domain.
Yeah.
A lot of people see that and they're like, oh, that's a terrible way to work out. And it's like, well, what am I training for? I'm still recovering,
Yeah.
So that's a good way to look at it. My problem is I get to Tuesday and I'm like, oh, I feel like I need to bang out some miles.
Yeah.
So today's Tuesday and I ran another 15 and I'm like, damn it. I need to recover.
The importance of recovery days.
Yeah. But absolutely important. And another good way, other than the assault bike, rower, and then swimming. Swimming's a really good one I found.
Yeah, I love swimming.
And not just going out and like, you don't have to go out and rip through like a 500 or whatever, but just like 10 100-meter repeats at like super slow pace. That's what I do. And I'll stop after every 100, stretch it out. I'm sure people are like, what is this guy doing? But it's like a great active recovery for me, especially after a heavy lift day.
Yeah, it's unloaded. It's nice, yeah.
There's like no impact. I think that's key when it comes to active recovery is like reducing impact.
Yeah.
Your joints, the oxidative stress on your body, the inflammatory response, like that's all going to be there when you're training. So I think when it comes to active recovery, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's definitely important to
yeah. Well, I think it's also important
impact.
just as an athlete to give your body some time to downregulate too, and kind of give it something where you're not like stressing about it.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
Well, not necessarily like all active recovery, like especially if you were doing that assault bike tempo thing that you were talking about earlier, that's not going to necessarily be like a downregulation for your system, but on your active recovery days, giving yourself some time, whether it's you choose meditation or I don't know, just some breathing exercises.
Mentally resetting.
Yeah, exactly. But that's also going to help your physical state too of your body tissues, because it's giving that time to downregulate, relax your body, and let it heal and let it recover.
Yeah.
Because if you're always on high alert, if you're always on that fight or flight response, you're not really going to have good actual like recovery of your system.
Right. So. Yeah, stress on the, like, mental stress.
Yeah, exactly.
Really affects the physical performance.
Yeah, because it causes physical stress. Whether it's actually, like, whether you realize it's physical stress or not, it totally is.
Right.
Yeah.
And it always manifests itself in a physical way, no matter what mental stress does. Mm-hmm. So it's crazy, because if you look, the busiest gym times in America are like 4 to 6 p.m., which is always after work. And it's like, obviously it's good, get in the gym. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah. But that compound, like, of constantly, if that's who you are and you go work, especially if you have a stressful work day, and then you go to the gym and then you make dinner and then you do it all over again, even if, you know, you're paying attention to proper nutrition and you're getting sleep, just that cycle, that rat race is super important to just step off the treadmill once in a while and just, like, hike or, like, you know, take a reset button.
Yeah,
hit the reset button.
Yeah.
It was my favorite to see after the CrossFit Games. If you follow all the athletes on Instagram or whatever, they all talk about, like, the next week they all, like, were rock climbing and mountain biking and just, like,
it was awesome.
Get me the hell out of the gym. And, like, even their coaches are like, hey, you know, you're going to do this. You know?
Yeah, no, that's important. I mean, high level athlete or not, I think it's important for your system.
Yeah. And another thing my coach would do, just thinking on the terms of mental recovery, is every couple months he would be like, hey, program your own workout and let me know what it is. So I like that, because I would program what I liked. Yeah. And so I would program a workout I like, all movements I love.
You're gonna crush it.
Smash it. You know, but mentally it was just an awesome thing. And it, like, got the gears, like, got me recharged. Because if you're just in the gym, especially with a multi-sport, you know, you're doing a lot of drill work. Like CrossFit, you have to constantly drill weaknesses. Triathlon, you're constantly drilling transitions and stuff like that isn't necessarily, like, the fun part of the sport. I mean, working on weakness is never fun, no matter what it is.
No.
So if you're a coach, like, programming that kind of a thing for your athletes, I think is super beneficial long term. And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up supplements, because I've built my entire life around them at this point. But if you're trying to get stronger, there are proven supplements that work. You can go back and listen to the supplement industry podcast that we did, the earlier episodes. Creatine, 100%. If you are trying to get stronger, you should take creatine, unless you have an allergic reaction to it of some kind. And even then, you should look at what you're taking, because you're probably taking a garbage brand with a lot of fillers. But you should be taking 5 grams of creatine monohydrate every single day. Don't get upsold on Cryalkaline or any other thing that's pH balance or whatever study they're going to cite. Creatine monohydrate is the most studied, and look for Creapure, because it's the highest quality of creatine monohydrate that you're going to find. Another thing to look at is branched chain amino acids, because they're shown to be muscle sparing, meaning if you're doing a lot of other things other than lifting, then taking branched chain amino acids are really going to help preserve that muscle mass that you have. Because the last thing you want to do is be in the gym working really hard to build muscle and then be out running it off or hiking it off, because your nutritional timing's bad. So supplementing, like I always say, whole real food always, but supplements have their place. And if for nothing else, to kind of work as a stopgap, you know? So those are the 2 supplements. And then obviously everybody knows protein, but we kind of already went through that.
Yeah.
So those are 2-3 supplements. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about as far as getting stronger?
No.
Nah, pretty much covered.
All right, cool. I'm going to leave you with this Mark Ripito quote. I'm sure you guys know it. Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Strong people are harder to kill and more useful in general. Remember that.
Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to LionHeart Radio. Don't forget to rate us and download our other episodes. For your supplement needs, go to louaviv.com, and for your sports therapy needs, visit movement-rx.com.
This Midwest nigga be the coldest. Cleveland is the city where it's hustle or you hopeless. And my closet like a stove, bitch. Only difference is you ain't gon' find this in no stove, bitch. I'm fresher than your whole clique.